So today I'm doing a collaboration with Rain Crow. Thank you for coming to the channel, Rain Crow, for the first time. I'm really interested in talking about your own personal gnosis, your own personal experiences with your spirits and gods. So, Rain Crow, when you're coming to the heathen path, um, what did you feel really called you to it, and how did you truly feel it manifest as you first dived into heathenry?
Well, it was a long process, too long to go to in a video like this, but I went through um, the Abrahamic faith path and through Buddhism and some movies and some books, and I just felt the call to heathenry in general, uh, coming from a primarily Celtic and Germanic background, which you don't have to do this, but I just felt it added to the calling to it. But I realized you don't have to have that background to be called to this. Anybody can be called to it, in my opinion. And I think a lot of it was nature, watching crows, various birds of prey, trees, rocks, streams, rain, thunder. It all began to resonate with me in a much deeper way than it had before. So a lot of reading and movies and ideas in my head coalesced with the spirits of the land or the land whites, kind of calling my attention. It's like I felt this calling me, you know, and I know there's.
So kind of all these ideas were cultivated within you, and then they eventually kind of formed into one harvest of spirituality, I guess you could say, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and I've had some very interesting encounters over the last 6 months, going back through the winter, all the way through the changing of the seasons till now. And I actually find that I'm not as I don't seem to be as close to nature. I'm still close to it, but I'm not called by nature as much in the summer months for some reason as I am through the winter and the frost going away in the spring. It seems to be a heavier calling to me for some reason. One example
So
is
you're attracted to certain seasons, certain times of the year, and you
I
feel
mean,
most spiritually potent.
not by choice. It just seems I just
Yeah,
noticed that's what's been happening.
yeah.
I haven't chosen any of this. It's just when I take note of it, it seems to be the heavier duty activity is from the winter through the spring months. It seems to be I'm more closer to the spirit world, as it were. That's been my recent experience. This may change over time. Um, and then I've been working on my practice as far as establishing an altar, um, trying to working with runes, reading some the Norse myths, and getting acquainted with Odin and Freya and Frigg, and these different Thor and that. And because I feel like knowing the history of this and knowing the myths and who they are, it will add a deeper meaning to what I'm doing. But I really am called a lot more for myself right now. I'm called a lot more to the nature of the land whites, the spirits of the land, a little bit more than the gods. But the gods are definitely calling me because I'm interested in finding out about them, and it's this kind of a thing weaving together.
Yeah, so I know we both read Raven Caldera at least a little bit, and so the idea of land whites in that is very similar to the Native American idea of the land, and the idea that just because we draw boundaries doesn't mean that a land white has the same boundaries. So so in your opinion, how would you? Are there some methods that you connect to the land through, either whether it be through traditional heathenry or through Native American practices, what have you?
Yeah, I actually lived on a reservation once upon a time, a long time ago, and I actually, I mean, I know this is hard for some of the believe, but I actually live with an old medicine man's family. And just briefly, just like a year at my post Navy time. And so I learned, I'm not an expert, but I learned some of the basics: tobacco offerings, offerings to a tree, offerings to a river, sitting on a hill and making a tobacco offering, which I have not done. I've just only heard people doing about it. I've contemplated doing that. But my first my first walk with land whites are actually through a Native American lens. But when I was leaving the reservation and the medicine man's family, the medicine man told me that I would go out back into the world away from the reservation. And he felt like my path was not a red road, nor was it a Christian road, for me to go find that road and remind me that he recognized that I was more European, a lot more than Native American, but that every people, African, European, whatever, they have a drum, they have a song, they have ways. For me to go research that and find that and see if that fits. But he says you're welcome to the red road, but I don't feel the red road or the Christian road is your road. You have another road. So that kind of started me off. But
And see, that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people try to force themselves into the Christian road because they were raised around it, but they're really not called to it. I mean, before you continue, do you think that's true?
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people do it because of family pressure, or just they don't think about it like, well, mom and dad were and I am, or they do think about, but I can't do it because my family will ostracize me or something like that. I'm fortunate in that my parents don't really, although they're Christian, they don't care. They are they're not gonna hold it against me or anything like. They don't. As long as I'm nice to them and kind to them, they don't care really. As long as I'm not a devil worshiper or something, they don't. And they don't consider paganism devil worship. Even my mom now and then, she'll tell me, "Hey, it's Thor's Day today on Thursday." My mom will look at me and say, "Happy Thor's Day."
That's awesome. So
When it's lightning, my mom will say, "Thor is messaging us" or something like that.
That's pretty awesome, actually. So like your experience with Medicine Man, you were saying.
Yeah, I was with the Omaha tribe in Macy, Nebraska. I won't give out the guy's name. He's passed away now. He was living alone at the time. I say family because on the land he lived on, he had like cousins and stuff around him. These people their first language was Omaha. Their second language was English. So I was around the really old people that would speak their language, and they were fascinated that I would sit in the room and listen to them, not knowing a word they were saying. And they really liked that I respected that I could sit in there and not be bugged by it. And they asked me, they said, "What are you doing when you're sitting here? What's going through your mind?" And I said, I'm kind of a linguist, so I'm picking apart syllables and I'm seeing if I can understand words, even if I don't know the meaning of it. So, like if they say Wakanda, I know that Lakota language because I lived on the Pine Ridge Reservation too for 1 year, and I know that Wakantanka is like the medicine spirit, great spirit, and so Wakanda is the Omaha word. So anyway, but they taught me the some of the, if you want to call it legends or myths. I hate to use those words, but I don't know any other word. They taught me some of how they got the pipe, how they got the sweat lodge, the practices concerning that. And I feel like to respect their ways, and because I'm not legally associated with the tribe, although I guess I could be if I pressed it, but uh, I to respect those ways, I don't want to bring them into. I want a new practice, like the man said, find my own way. That's not neither Christian nor the red road, the Native American road. So, but I still want to respect those land spirits. That really was called to me way back when I was on the reservation. Even before then, even when I was a child, I was at home in the forest. I I felt like the trees were speaking to me, not literally words, but I felt really plugged in and connected, even as a kid, you know. And
I would say that a lot of the time, different cultures use different words for the same spirits. So, like land whites, I might, as somebody who's traveling in Norse tradition, I would say that they are land whites. In Native American tribes, depending on the tribe, that might be called something else. But that doesn't mean that it's referring to something else. It's just referring to the same thing through different words for it. Would you agree with that?
yeah, yeah. I would say that I think that the people who came here from Europe, I think that they also brought with them the fairies, the elves, the leprechauns, the magical forest beings, or whatever. I think some of them were so attached to these families, they got on the boats with them. And then people who died, you know, became part of the mix, the spirits or whatever. But I think that these spirits of the land also are pre-Native American. And so they don't really care if you're a Native American. Like, they don't care if you're a Native American. If you're honoring them, they like it. You
And
know?
then that connection actually benefits you as well, because you experience the connection once that is made. Once you make those offerings, once you make that connection, then you can actually build yourself as a spiritual being, despite whatever name you have for it specifically. I think that everybody can build that connection no matter where they are. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. So I I think there's people sometimes worry about what kinds of offerings to make, and I say don't worry about that. I think whatever comes to you, you should do that, and you'll find out whether that's accepted or not. And if it's not accepted, do something else. So if those spirits of the land that you're on, they don't like alcohol, give them cornmeal and tobacco. And I don't think that's usurping Native American. I think that's showing respect for whatever that spirit wants. This isn't about Native American or European or African. And by the way, there's African spirits brought over from the Africans too. You know, so I haven't looked into enough to what they would want, but they might want certain kinds of. I'll have to research that because I actually do need to think about that.
Here's my question. At this point, because it's starting to actually sound a lot like this, have you seen American Gods?
No, no,
there's a lot of parallels with that. Now, you know, the show and the book itself are not necessarily spiritual, but there is this idea that wherever somebody comes from, they bring those spirits or those gods with them. And then if your people or if you yourself kind of feed them or honor them, then they kind of establish themselves not only in your own psyche, but wherever you are. So I think that's definitely a thing. And I will also say that cornmeal, it's not just used with Native Americans. It's also used in Haitian Vodou practices, which I have done in the past quite a bit. There's a lot of cornmeal usage, and also you know, Haitian alcohol or
you know,
tobacco.
different herbs, you know, sage and sweetgrass and whatever to burn. And you'll just kind of, you have to feel this thing out. There's no prescription for this. I think you have to go with what you feel like. Now, you got to be sensible. Don't insult them. You know, don't do harmful things. You know, but if you're giving it in the spirit of, I'm thankful that you're here with me, and maybe they might even help you in a certain way. You know, but something a little more personal that's happened in the last 6 months through the winter, through the spring, is I was just looking at the trees as they as they lost leaves and got the leaves back again. I saw faces in the trees, like bearded men, and the thoughts through my head were like, are these my ancestors showing themselves to me, or are these the spirits showing themselves to me, or is that just the tree spirit showing itself to me? I was like, what? And I didn't feel like it was wicked or after me, trying to get me, nothing like that kind of thing. But I felt like, hey, I'm allowing you to see me. Hi, I'm here. This is what I look like. I like that. It was like I like that you can see me. Finally, I felt like finally someone sees me. And this is on a hill, there's like this hill and there's these trees. And, you know, in old cultures, whether it be Egypt or Europe or wherever, a hill with trees was always a sacred place. So I consider that land that I drive around for work, you know, a kind of a sacred area. And it's people don't really bother it. They leave it's in the middle of a town, but people leave it alone. They don't bother it. So it really feels like a sacred place. And when I get my runes when I cut my runes event, well, I have 2 sets, but I might make another. I bought those 2 sets. I might make a set, and I'm probably going to get it from a branch from one of those trees or from one of the trees around where I live here. But one other thing was that the thought came to my mind that I need a like a harger or like a hearthstone for a bloat or something outside of my place here where I live. And I've been seeing these stones, and the message in my head came to me. It said, the stone will be where there's water or where there was water, and it'll be at the foot of a tree. And don't force it. The stone will call you. And when you have that stone call you, you take that stone and take it home and use it for a bloat or whatever. So now
so you'll be ready when you encounter that stone. So you've obviously, of course, cast that intention into your mind, and it'll actually traverse into nature. So I would like to say that I live in a very forested area. So when I look up into the canopy, I also see faces very similar to what you're talking about. I don't see them as much on tree trunks, but when I look at the joined trees in the canopy, right, I do see those faces that you're talking about.
That's really what I'm talking. That's really what I'm talking about. Is up in the canopy, not so much the trunks. Although I do sometimes see a long-haired, bearded face in the trunks. You know, people might say, "Well, that's our imagination," but just think of it this way: when has the last of our ancestors thought in these kinds of ways? Now we don't know because we don't know the thoughts, but I'm thinking that maybe my grandpa thought of it in that way, maybe. But I kind of, I don't know because you don't know what their thoughts were. But if he did, he thought of it as a kid and then he put it away as an adult and went to work, you know. And so
I'm telling you, man, we are coming back. Like, I think that we're actually in an ascending cycle where we're actually starting to understand the land, gods, and spirits better, and that we've had this lull where we're like so fascinated with believing one book or another, and our spiritual progress has actually been dampened because we don't have the same connection that our ancestors did. But now I feel like more people are starting to realize, oh, this connection still exists. We're finding it through personal gnosis. And just in closing, because this video is supposed to be below 20 minutes, what would you recommend somebody do as a heathen, just to connect more with the land?
Just take time out and look and see. Turn off the radio. Turn off your mind for a second. If you're in your car and it's safe, or if you're walking through a park or around your home. If you have a tree in your yard, look at that tree and look at it as if it were a person. Not try to see faces, but say, "Hi, tree, how are you?" Just make a relationship with the tree of the land. Take off your shoes and socks and bare feet. And if you don't feel like you can connect at all, drink a glass of water, go out on your bare feet and touch your feet to the land. And I have to give credit where I got that from. I got that from the Omaha medicine man. And it was one of the teachings he taught me was, if you feel lost and not connected to nature, and like you feel there's no way you can be connected, drink a glass of water, take off your socks and shoes, go outside and put your feet right on the ground, and you will be plugged in. You will get the connection. So
excellent, man. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on the channel and sharing these experiences. Would you like to go ahead and shout out your own channel before we end here?
Well, my own channel right now is Old Gringo, but I'm gonna probably make a channel specifically for my heathen journey, spirituality, connected things, and that's probably going to be called Rain Crow. That is my name that was given to me. So I can go into that story at another time. But anyway, I probably will make another channel for that. Right now, if you go to Old Gringo, you're just going to see um, some ramblings of politics that people may or may not agree with, and I
It's
try
not
to
that
keep
bad.
that separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, actually, I think that you're producing some good content. So yeah, thank you very much for coming to the channel. If any of you out there have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot them down in the comment section below. We'll both check them out, see what we can answer for you. Me and you will of course keep talking, but all of you at home, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see all of you on the channel in the future.